Hello and welcome to Baking on a Budget. Now, this time still preparing for Christmas. We're going to make a fruit loaf. We're going to make a Christmas cake. Now I say, why make it now? It needs to mature. Again, like the sweet mints that I made last week for the sweet mince pies, that is maturing. But what we want to do now is make a beautiful, rich fruit loaf, and then we're going to wrap that up and seal it up. And it is going to stay sealed for about a month. We'll feed it with this type of fruit loaf. You do feed it with an alcohol or some type of fruit juice or something like that, depending on your taste. So every week you would open it up, pour a little bit more of the liquor on it, seal it up again. That cake will be beautifully moist and absolutely delicious. So that's what we're doing right now. Now, of course, I do already have another video up on how to make a simple fruit loaf. But this is more like a Christmas cake, something you'd use for a celebration. So it's a much denser cake, it's much more rich, and it's a little bit more expensive as well, but it is Christmas and we're going to make a beautiful Christmas cake. Now, we'll have all the materials over here, and there's quite a lot of it. So I'm going to run through that, tell you exactly how much all of this costs, and then we'll get into the method of making this. Okay, so to begin with, we have 175 grams of butter. This is softened butter, and that cost me 58 pence. We have 110 grams of brown sugar at 60 pence. We have 400 grams of mixed fruit at £1. We have 100 grams of cherries at 90 pence. We have the zest and juice of one orange at 30 pence. We have the zest and juice of one lemon at 10 pence, and we have about 100 ml of the liquor of your choice. That's about £2. Very expensive alcohol. Again, you could substitute this, you could put a fruit juice in, something like that. It would really bring the cost of the cake down and it would still be absolutely delicious. Now, continuing along, we have 3 large eggs at 39 pence. We have 200 grams of flour at 10 pence. We have half a teaspoon of baking powder at about 2 pence. And we have 1.5 teaspoons of mixed spice at about 6 pence, and we have a teaspoon of cinnamon at 4 pence. So if we add all that together, we get a total cost of £5.29. Now, as I say, that cost can come down fantastically if you choose to not use the alcohol or use a cheaper alcohol. I'm using a cooking brandy for this because that's personally what I like. But you could use something much less expensive and it would bring the overall cost of the cake down. Now, £5.29. When the cake is ready, I'm also going to add some marzipan to it, and I'm going to add icing around it as well. I've not costed that yet, but we have this for the cake. When the cake is made and ready to go, I'll be able to tell you much better exactly how much that will cost per slice. And just as an aside, I'm going to make the cake in this tin. This is a 7-inch baking tin, cake tin. And this belonged to my, you can see it's been well used. It belonged to me great aunt Belle, and she made a mean Christmas cake. And she used to make about 5 of them each year around this time. And she would have them maturing in a quality street box, you know. And then she would distribute them amongst the rest of the family, other relations. She made Christmas cakes for years and years in this tin. And when she passed away, it came to us. And then my father made many a Christmas cake in this very tin. So I'm going to continue the tradition. Here's the tin. Could get a brand spanking new one if you wanted to, but this is a family heirloom. And it has many a Christmas cake still in it, I'm sure. So just an aside, but we'll get on with the cake now. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is prepare the fruit for this. This is very similar to the sweet mince pie filling, which I made last week. We want 400 grams of the mixed fruit in here. Now, as you saw, this was just from the least expensive one which I could find in the supermarket. You could put other fruits in here if you wish. No great rules or anything like that on it. You could put cranberries in there, you could put, well, I'm going to put some cherries in there with it. Many different things you could put in. I've just got this basic mixed fruit, and what I'm going to do is zest this lemon, and we also want the juice from this lemon in this mixture also. Okay, that's the zest in there. now we want the juice from it. In it goes. Okay, same with the orange. And there is the orange juice as well. So next thing I'm going to do is chop up some of these cherries. This is a 200 gram carton of these cherries. So I'm just going to get about half of them out. I think that's about it. And I'm going to chop them and stick them in the pan. Now the rest of those I might make a cherry Madeira cake with them soon, just to use them up really. But yes, a nice cherry Madeira is always very nice, especially as part of an afternoon tea or something like that. But anyhow, for now the cherries get chopped. Chopping them fairly coarsely, they're just in half. And they are all going in the pan. And then to that I'm going to add 50 ml of this brandy. This is just the cheapest brandy I could find. In fact, it's been in the kitchen for a long time. I'm sure it'll be absolutely okay. And also, you know, the brandy, putting alcohol in the cake is not 100% necessary, but you do want something to add a little moisture to it at this point. That could be a fruit juice, as I say. Could put whiskey in if you like whiskey. You could put rum in. However you like it. Right, having mixed all of that together, this is now going to sit on the hob for about 5 minutes, just to a light simmer. We'll allow all of this fruit to take up all of the juices from the orange and from the lemon and to soak in that brandy for a while, and that will be delicious. Very similar to the mince pie, sweet mince pie recipe. And on to the next phase of this. We have the brown sugar going in there. That is 210 grams of brown sugar, and we have 175 grams of this softened butter. I've just had this sitting by the hob for a while to soften it up. That will be fine there. Now, I'm going to beat this together. Be careful, it does tend to fly out of the bowl a little. And we want to beat this to a nice creamy consistency. Okay, that's come together nicely. Now I'm just going to add some of the egg into that. We've got 3 eggs in this cup, and I've just added a small quantity, probably 1 egg. And now I'll also mix that in. And being that, we will add a little more of the egg. And this is just on the lowest setting that you can get the whisk here. So that's 3 eggs we've got in there. Just want to scrape it from the side of the bowl, combine it, and then whisk for a little more. Okay, that's had about 3 minutes of whisking. And again, just clean the sides of the bowl there. Make sure everything is combined nicely, which it is. And now back to the fruit. Okay, the fruit is looking absolutely wonderful. It has softened down a lot. Smells delightful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off the gas at this point. I'm going to let it cool, and then we will combine the rest of the ingredients for this delicious fruit cake. Okay, and whilst the fruit is cooling, we'll just prepare this tin. Now, I want a circle for the bottom of it, so I've just folded this greaseproof paper 4 times. And we'll put around it like that, and that will give us a circle which will fit the bottom of the tin. Okay, so I've greased the tin, and I've put this bottom circular piece of greaseproof paper in there, and now I've cut another piece which is large enough to fit right the way around the tin, and it will be taller than the tin as well. This is because we want to protect this cake from the oven. It's going to be in the oven for quite some time. Maybe as long as 90 minutes, but we will check, and I'll be able to tell you how long it did take to cook when it is actually cooked. But what I want to do is fold this in half, so we're putting like a double layer of the greaseproof paper around the side of the cake tin. Okay, so that looks like that. So our fruit has cooled down a little, and that is looking good to go. Our mixture here is nice and light and creamy. That's looking good to go. So I'm going to add about half of the fruit, and I'm going to fold that in. I'm not going to beat it in or anything like that, because we do want to maintain the air in the egg and sugar mixture. Look at that. Delicious. Right, get the rest of the fruit in there. The oven is almost up to temperature. I'm going to put this in an oven at 150 degrees centigrade, and it's going to stay in there until it's cooked. Now that could take up to about 90 minutes. A few factors involved in that. One of them is the size of the tin, the thickness, the depth of the cake, and another would be the accuracy of the oven, which I cannot vouch for right now. So I'm going to put it in, I'm going to leave it for about 45 minutes, test it with the skewer, and then estimate how long we've got to go. Okay, so into the flour we are going to put half a teaspoon of this baking powder. That's it there. We are going to put 1 teaspoon of the cinnamon, and with that we are going to put in 1.5 teaspoons of this ground spice, mixed spice it is. Very good. We can just combine that with a spoon, and then similarly I'll put about half of this into the mix, and I will fold that in, and we just want to get all that flour combined with the wet ingredients. Okay, and the rest of the flour. I'll say that's 200 grams of flour I'm using here. I just want to keep mixing that until it is all beautifully combined. And that being that, the next thing we want to do is spoon this out into our prepared tin. Right, so on a good big spoonful of it, and in it goes. This is going to be one fabulous cake. As I say, a little more expensive than the usual sort of cake I do, but this will be a much bigger cake for one, and it is Christmas, or it's coming up to Christmas. Okay, and then with the spatula we'll just get every last drop of that out and into the tin. That is looking good. Now I'm just going to smooth that down on the top. I'm not going to press it down too much, I just want it relatively flat. Again, it will sort itself out once it gets in the oven, but just to make sure we're up to the edges here and that everything is looking good, that will do it, I say. Okay, that is ready to go. Sorry, just dropped a bit down the side of the tin. I'll take that off because it will burn in the oven. Alright, I'll just clean that all the way around actually, just to make sure. Happy with that. As I say, this is going into the oven at 150 degrees. I'm going to leave it in there for 45 minutes, maybe 50. Then I'm going to take a look at it, I'm going to give it the skewer test, and I'll put it back in, but I'll put it back in with some tin foil over the top, just to stop the top of it from burning, because it is quite a long, slow cook for this. I'm saying it's going to take about 90 minutes. We'll see when we get to the end of it. Okay, now that has had 1 hour and 45 minutes in the oven at 150 degrees centigrade, and at this point it is done to a turn. Skewer right the way in, and that's coming out nice and clean. The cake is done. Now what I'm going to do is let this cool, and once it's cooled we'll get it out of its wrapping, see how it looks, and then get on to the next phase of this. The cake is completely cooled at this point, and that is one fine looking fruit loaf. Now, one more thing to do with this, and that thing is feeding the cake. So what I'm going to do is put a number of skewer holes in the cake like this. Very good. And then we are going to feed it, or give it a little drink, of this brandy. And what we want to do is just get a small quantity of that and pour this just where the holes are. This will soak into the cake and this will make a beautiful moist fruit loaf. Okay, that's just a few drops in each of those holes. That's good to go. And then we need to wrap this cake up. Now unfortunately I'm not going to get to taste this right now because it does have to mature. And what we're going to do is wrap it in this greaseproof paper, and then we're going to wrap it again in this tin foil. Okay, now that is going to go into a sealed container and it's going to stay there for 1 month. I'm making this late November, so it's going to be ready by Christmas. 1 month. Each week I'm going to open it up and pour a little bit more of that brandy into it. And over time that will become a beautiful, thick, moist, rich Christmas cake. So there it is, a fruit loaf for Christmas. And it's going to be 4 weeks before we get a chance to taste this, but I think the wait will be worth it. I do hope so. As I say, I'm going to put a little bit of marzipan on top of here, and I'm going to put a little bit of icing on as well, but I'll do that when we take it out after it's rested and been fed for a while. So that's it for this video. That is how I make a fruit loaf or Christmas cake. We're going to get many slices out of that once it's ready to go. It's going to be absolutely delicious. So if you've enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you would like to see more videos of this nature, a few more Christmas treats coming over the next couple of weeks, then do consider subscribing to the channel, and I thank you very much for watching.